There's something nobody tells you about becoming stronger. It rarely feels empowering while it's happening. Most of the time, it feels confusing. It feels like doors closing, plans falling apart, people changing, and dreams taking much longer than you expected. You keep wondering if you're doing something wrong. You compare your timeline to everyone else's. Someone your age is starting a business. Someone else just bought their first house. Another person is traveling the world. Meanwhile, you're sitting there wondering why your own life feels so ordinary. Comparison has a strange way of making you forget everything you've already survived. You stop noticing how far you've come because you're too busy looking at how far someone else appears to be. But what you don't see are the sacrifices they made to get there or the battles they fight when nobody else is watching. Every person is carrying something. Some people have simply become better at hiding it. The strongest people you know aren't strong because life has always been easy for them. They're strong because they kept moving after life gave them every reason to stop. That's a different kind of strength, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't receive applause or recognition. It's the strength you build when you wake up after a terrible day and choose to try again anyway. No audience, no praise, just another small decision to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Those small decisions change people, not all at once, but slowly, almost invisibly. One morning you'll react calmly to something that used to ruin your entire week. One day you'll realize you haven't thought about the person who once broke your heart. One afternoon you'll laugh so hard that, for a few moments, you completely forget what sadness even felt like. Healing doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand announcements. It quietly slips into your life until one day you realize you're breathing a little easier, smiling a little more, and believing in yourself a little longer than you used to. The truth is, you don't have to transform overnight. You only need one reason to keep going today, and maybe tomorrow you'll find another. People often believe confidence comes first, but it doesn't. Action comes first. Confidence is simply what grows afterward. Every time you do something that scares you, your mind begins collecting evidence that you're capable. Evidence that you can survive discomfort. Evidence that failure isn't the end of your story. Evidence that you're far stronger than you once believed. The version of yourself you admire isn't waiting somewhere in the future. That person is being built by the choices you're making right now. Every workout, every page you read, every difficult conversation you finally have, every boundary you refuse to lower, those moments rarely feel life-changing in the moment. Yet years later, you'll realize they became the foundation of the person you grew into. Life isn't made from huge, cinematic moments. It's made from ordinary Tuesdays, quiet Thursday afternoons, and conversations you'll barely remember. It's made from tiny decisions that seem insignificant until they completely change the direction of your future. A stranger smiles at you, and you smile back. Neither of you realizes how badly the other needed that moment. You apply for an opportunity you almost ignored, and months later it opens a door you never expected. You decide to call someone you've been thinking about, and that conversation becomes one you'll carry with you for years. Life changes quietly. That's why patience matters. Not because waiting is enjoyable, but because meaningful things almost always grow in silence. Trees don't become forests overnight. Mountains aren't carved by a single storm. People don't become resilient after one difficult day. It happens one sunrise at a time, one lesson at a time, one decision after another. So if today feels insignificant, don't judge your future by your present moment. The person you're becoming is still under construction. Construction sites are messy. They're loud, they're unfinished, but nobody walks past one and believes it will stay that way forever. Everyone understands that it's becoming something. Give yourself that same understanding. You're becoming something too, even if you can't see it yet. Some days don't hurt because something bad happened. They hurt because nothing happened at all. You wake up, you check your phone, no messages, no notifications from the people you secretly hoped would remember you. You put the phone back down and tell yourself it doesn't matter, but deep down, it does, not because you need attention, because everyone wants to feel like they matter to someone. Sometimes it feels like the world keeps moving while you're standing still. Everyone else seems to be building friendships, finding love, chasing dreams, and becoming someone. Meanwhile, you're just trying to make it through another ordinary day. You laugh when everyone else laughs. You smile when people look at you. You answer, "I'm good," because saying anything else feels like you're becoming a burden. Most people never notice how exhausting it is to pretend you're okay. They see your face, they don't see the thousands of thoughts racing through your head before you fall asleep. The quiet questions, am I enough? Am I wasting my life? Will things always feel like this? Those questions don't make you weak, they make you human. Every person you admire has asked them at some point. The difference is, most people never talk about it. Social media has convinced us that life is supposed to move fast. By 20, you're supposed to know your career. By 25, you're supposed to have everything figured out. By 30, you're supposed to be successful, but life has never worked on a schedule. Some people discover their purpose at 16, others find it at 60. Neither person is late because there was never a race to begin with. You don't have to become someone else to deserve happiness. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need a perfect body. You don't need everyone's approval. You only need one thing: the courage to keep showing up, even on the days when nothing exciting happens, even when progress feels invisible. Because the biggest changes in your life won't happen overnight, they'll happen quietly. One choice, one habit, one conversation, one opportunity you almost ignored. One day you'll look back and realize the person you were desperate to become was built during the days you almost quit. So don't underestimate today just because it looks ordinary. Ordinary days become extraordinary lives when you refuse to give up on yourself. Maybe you haven't met your closest friends yet. Maybe your biggest opportunity hasn't arrived yet. Maybe the version of yourself you're dreaming about is already being shaped by the struggles you're facing today. You can't always see growth while it's happening. A seed looks like it's doing nothing until one day it breaks through the ground and suddenly everyone notices. But they never saw what happened underneath. The same is true for you. Every setback is teaching you something. Every disappointment is making room for something better. Every lonely season is helping you discover who you are when nobody is watching. And that version of you is the one that lasts. So if today feels quiet, let it be quiet. If today feels slow, let it be slow. Not every chapter has to be exciting to be important. Some chapters exist to prepare you for the story you'll someday be proud to tell. At some point in life, you stop waiting for things to magically get better, not because you've given up, but because you begin to understand that change isn't something that arrives one morning while you're asleep. It comes from the little things you do when nobody is watching. It's choosing to get out of bed when staying there feels easier. It's finishing the workout even when you're tired. It's reading one more page, sending one more application, making one more attempt after 100 disappointments. Progress doesn't usually look impressive while it's happening. It looks ordinary. It looks repetitive. It looks like doing the same small things over and over again until one day you realize they've quietly changed your entire life. We spend so much time waiting for motivation that we forget motivation was never meant to lead us. It comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll question everything. If your future depends on how motivated you feel each day, your future will always be uncertain. Discipline isn't exciting, but it carries you on the days motivation disappears. It's the quiet promise you make to yourself that says, even if I don't feel like it today, I'll keep going anyway. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is that not everyone is supposed to understand your journey. Some people will laugh at your goals because they can't imagine achieving them themselves. Others will doubt you simply because you've changed. Sometimes the people who knew the old version of you become uncomfortable when they see you growing into someone different. That's okay. Growth isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were capable all along. You'll lose people along the way, and at first that feels like failure. You wonder if you could have said something differently or done something better. But as time passes, you begin to realize that not every ending is a tragedy. Some people only belong in certain chapters of your life. They teach you something, leave their mark, and then continue on a different path. Holding on to every person who walks away only keeps you from meeting the ones who are meant to stay. The same is true for dreams. Sometimes you'll chase something with everything you have, only to discover it wasn't actually what you wanted. That doesn't mean the effort was wasted. Every experience teaches you something about yourself. Every wrong turn helps you recognize the right one when it finally appears. Life isn't a straight road. It's a series of detours that slowly reveal who you're becoming. Think about the person you were 5 years ago. Chances are you've changed in ways you never expected. The things that kept you awake at night probably don't have the same power over you anymore. Problems that once felt impossible now seem small. That's proof that people change, even when they don't notice it happening. The person you'll become 5 years from now is being shaped by the choices you make today, even if those choices seem insignificant. It's easy to believe that everyone else has life figured out. Social media makes it look that way. You scroll through photos of vacations, celebrations, achievements, and smiling faces, and suddenly your own life feels incomplete. What you rarely see are the moments between those pictures, the uncertainty, the mistakes, the loneliness, the countless times people questioned whether they were good enough. Every life has chapters that never get posted online. The truth is, nobody has everything figured out. Some people are simply better at pretending they do. Everyone is making decisions without knowing exactly how they'll turn out. Everyone is hoping that the risks they're taking will eventually make sense. Confidence isn't having all the answers, it's being willing to move forward despite not having them. There will come a day when an opportunity appears that scares you. Your first instinct might be to say no because you don't feel ready. But very few people ever feel completely ready for the moments that change their lives. Readiness often comes after the decision, not before it. If you wait until every fear disappears, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Sometimes courage is simply taking the first step while your hands are still shaking. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped measuring your worth by your worst days. What if one bad week didn't convince you that your future was ruined? What if one mistake became a lesson instead of a label? We are often far kinder to strangers than we are to ourselves. We forgive other people's imperfections while treating our own like permanent flaws. But you're allowed to grow beyond your mistakes. You're allowed to become someone your younger self would be proud of. The future you're hoping for won't arrive all at once. It will arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary mornings, unexpected conversations, and opportunities that almost seem too small to matter. You'll meet people who remind you that kindness still exists. You'll discover passions you didn't know you had. You'll look back on this version of yourself with compassion instead of criticism, realizing that every difficult season was preparing you for something you couldn't yet see. So don't give up on yourself simply because the results haven't appeared yet. Seeds spend weeks growing beneath the soil before anyone sees a single leaf. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. Underneath, everything is changing. Your life can be like that too. Just because you can't see the progress today doesn't mean it isn't happening. Keep watering the life you're trying to build. Keep believing in the person you're becoming. One day you'll stand in a place you once thought was impossible, and you'll realize that every small step, every setback, and every moment you almost quit led you exactly where you needed to be. One day, without even realizing it, you'll stop asking yourself, "Why is this happening to me?" And you'll start asking a different question. What is this teaching me? That small shift changes everything. The pain doesn't instantly disappear, and the challenges don't magically become easier, but they begin to have purpose. Instead of seeing every setback as proof that life is against you, you begin to see them as moments that are shaping the person you'll eventually become. It's strange how often we underestimate ourselves. We remember every mistake we've ever made, every embarrassing moment, every opportunity we missed. Those memories stay with us for years, but we rarely stop to think about all the problems we've already survived. Every obstacle that once felt impossible eventually became another chapter behind us. Every difficult day that convinced us we wouldn't make it somehow became another sunrise. If you've made it this far, you've already overcome more than your mind is willing to give you credit for. There are people who spend their entire lives searching for the perfect moment to begin. They tell themselves they'll start when they have more confidence, more money, more time, or more experience. The problem is that perfect moments almost never exist. Life keeps moving whether you feel ready or not. The people who accomplish extraordinary things aren't always the most talented. They're often just the ones who decided to begin before they felt prepared. Failure has a way of convincing you that one bad outcome defines who you are. You don't get the job and suddenly you believe you'll never be successful. A relationship ends and you wonder if you'll ever be loved the same way again. You fall short of a goal you've worked toward for months and your mind starts telling you that maybe you're simply not good enough. But failure has never been a final destination. It's a conversation. It's life asking whether you're willing to learn, adjust, and keep going. The people we admire most aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who refuse to let failure become the final chapter. Sometimes the greatest progress you make won't be visible to anyone else. Nobody will notice that you're speaking more kindly to yourself. Nobody will applaud the fact that you finally walked away from something that was hurting you. They won't see the nights you chose to keep working instead of giving up or the mornings you got out of bed despite every excuse to stay there. Some victories are completely invisible, but that doesn't make them any less important. In fact, those quiet victories often become the ones that change your life the most. As you grow older, you'll realize that peace is far more valuable than proving yourself to people who were never paying attention in the first place. You'll stop chasing validation from people who only notice you when it's convenient. You'll stop trying to win every argument, impress every stranger, or fit into places that were never meant for you. There's a freedom that comes from realizing you don't have to convince everyone to see your worth. The people who matter won't need convincing. Think about how much energy you've spent worrying about things that never actually happened. We imagine conversations before they take place. We create problems that don't exist yet. We replay mistakes over and over until they feel larger than they really were. Our minds often become experts at predicting the worst while completely ignoring the possibility that things might work out. What if the opportunity you're afraid to take becomes the one that changes everything? What if the person you're nervous to meet becomes a lifelong friend? What if your next chapter is better than anything you've imagined? The truth is, life has a funny way of surprising people who keep showing up. Not every day will be exciting. Most days won't feel life-changing at all. But every once in a while, an ordinary day becomes unforgettable. You'll meet someone unexpectedly. You'll receive a phone call that opens a new door. You'll discover a passion you never knew existed. Those moments don't come with warnings. They simply arrive, often on days that started like any other. Don't rush your story because you're comparing it to someone else's highlight reel. Every person is living a different life with different challenges, different opportunities, and different timing. The fact that someone else reached a milestone before you doesn't mean you've missed your chance. Success isn't a train that leaves the station once. New opportunities arrive every single day for people who are willing to keep looking. Years from now, you won't remember every stressful afternoon or every moment you doubted yourself. What you'll remember are the people who stood beside you, the risks you were brave enough to take, and the moments when you chose hope instead of fear. You'll remember how impossible some dreams once seemed before they slowly became reality. And perhaps the most surprising realization of all will be this: the person you spent so many years trying to become was quietly growing inside you the entire time. So if today feels uncertain, let it. You don't need every answer before taking the next step. You don't need to know exactly where the road leads before you start walking. Sometimes the most beautiful parts of life are the ones you never could have planned. Trust that your story is still being written. Trust that there are chapters ahead filled with people you haven't met, places you haven't seen, and versions of yourself you haven't had the chance to become yet. The best pages of your life may still be waiting to be written, and that's a reason to keep turning them. There comes a point where you realize that the person you need to become is not created by avoiding difficult moments. It's created by facing them. Every challenge you overcome becomes proof that you are capable of more than you once believed. You don't build confidence by waiting until you feel fearless. You build it by doing things while you are still afraid. Fear has a strange way of making everything seem bigger than it really is. A single mistake can feel like the end of your future. A single rejection can feel like proof that you weren't meant for something. A single bad day can convince you that everything is falling apart, but emotions are temporary. The way you feel in one moment does not define the direction of your entire life. Think about all the times you thought you wouldn't make it through something. Maybe it was a friendship ending. Maybe it was a difficult period where nothing seemed to go your way. Maybe it was a moment where you questioned whether things would ever get better. At the time, those moments probably felt permanent, but somehow you kept moving. Somehow you adapted. Somehow you became someone who could handle things that your past self never thought possible. That's the thing about growth. It usually happens after discomfort. Nobody becomes stronger by staying exactly where they are. A person who never challenges themselves never discovers what they're truly capable of. Growth requires stepping into situations where you might fail, where you might struggle, where you might not have all the answers, and that's okay. The goal was never to be perfect. The goal was to become better. A lot of people spend years trying to become someone they think others will accept. They change the way they talk, the way they dress, the things they enjoy, and even the dreams they chase because they are afraid of being judged. They spend so much time trying to fit into someone else's idea of who they should be that they forget to ask themselves a more important question. Who am I when nobody is watching? Because that person matters. The person you are when there is no one around to impress. The person who still works toward their goals when nobody is giving them attention. The person who chooses kindness even when they don't receive anything in return. That version of you is the foundation of everything. You don't have to prove your worth by being the loudest person in the room. You don't have to constantly achieve something to deserve respect. Your value isn't something you earn after reaching a certain level of success. You already have value. Achievements are simply things you add to your life, not things that determine whether your life matters. Many people spend their entire lives chasing a future version of happiness. They tell themselves, I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be happy when people finally recognize me. But then they reach those things and immediately create a new finish line. There's nothing wrong with having goals. Goals give life direction. But if you convince yourself that happiness only exists somewhere ahead of you, you'll miss the moments happening right now. The truth is, your life is not waiting to begin. It is already happening. The conversations you're having, the lessons you're learning, the small moments you barely notice. These are not just things happening before the real part of life begins. This is your life. The future you dream about is built from the way you treat today. Sometimes you won't notice how much you've changed until someone from your past points it out. They'll say you seem different, more confident, more calm, more comfortable being yourself, and maybe you'll realize they are right. You changed because you spent months or years quietly working on yourself when nobody else was paying attention. That's something worth being proud of, not because you became perfect, but because you refused to stay the same. Remember, a flower doesn't apologize for taking time to bloom. A mountain doesn't rush to become tall. The ocean doesn't worry about how long it takes to shape the shore. Everything in nature follows its own process, and you are no different. Your journey does not need to look like someone else's. You are not behind. You are not failing because your path looks different. You are simply becoming, and becoming takes time. There will be days when you feel like you're moving backward, days when old doubts return. Days when you question whether all your effort is actually making a difference. But remember this, a bad day does not erase your progress. A difficult week does not erase your growth. A setback does not erase every step forward you've already taken. Progress is not a straight line. Sometimes it looks like moving forward, sometimes it looks like resting, sometimes it looks like starting over. But as long as you continue choosing yourself, you are still moving. One day, you'll look back at this version of yourself and realize something important. You weren't waiting for life to begin. You were building it. The truth is, life will never be perfect. There will always be things you wish happened differently. There will always be moments you wish you could go back and change. There will always be days where you wonder if you're doing enough, if you're making the right choices, or if you're becoming the person you hoped you would be. But maybe the goal was never to create a perfect life. Maybe the goal was to create a meaningful one. A life where you learned from your mistakes instead of being controlled by them. A life where you appreciated the people who stood beside you. A life where you didn't spend every moment chasing approval from people who were never meant to define your worth. Because at the end of the day, nobody else has to live your life. Nobody else has to wake up with your thoughts, carry your dreams, face your fears, or experience your journey. That means your life belongs to you, not to the expectations of strangers, not to comparisons, not to the opinions of people who only see a small part of your story. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to start over. Starting over doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means you finally became brave enough to admit that the path you were on wasn't the one you truly wanted. Growth isn't always about adding more. Sometimes growth is letting go of the need to impress everyone, letting go of relationships that make you feel smaller, letting go of the version of yourself that was created only to make other people happy. The strongest thing you can do is become someone you are proud to be when nobody is watching. Because the person you are alone with is the person you will spend your entire life with. Learn to appreciate that person. Talk to yourself with patience. Give yourself the same kindness you would give to someone you care about. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to have moments you aren't proud of. You are going to have days where you feel lost. That's part of being human. A mistake is something that happened. It is not who you are. A bad chapter is something you experienced. It is not the entire story. Your past can explain you, but it does not have to control you. Every day you wake up is another opportunity to make a different choice. Another opportunity to become someone stronger, wiser, and more understanding than you were yesterday. And maybe you won't notice the change right away. Maybe nobody else will either, but one day you'll look back and realize that all those small moments mattered. The mornings you got up when you didn't feel like it. The times you kept going when nobody noticed. The moments you chose growth instead of comfort. Those moments built you. So if you're watching this and you're currently in a difficult season of your life, remember something. A difficult season does not mean a difficult life. Things can change, people can change, you can change. The person you are today is not the person you have to be forever. There are friendships you haven't made yet, places you haven't visited, opportunities you haven't discovered, memories you haven't created. Your story is still being written, so don't rush through it. Don't hate the chapter you're currently in just because you haven't reached the ending yet. Some of the most beautiful parts of life come after the moments you thought would break you. Keep learning, keep growing, keep moving forward even if the steps feel small. Because one day you'll realize you weren't just waiting for your life to get better. You were becoming the person who could create a better life, and that person was worth fighting for all along.